The era of the Department of Defense is over. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting. Unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, but it's because we love peace. Peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient. And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. Nobody can touch us. It's not even close. This is a moment of urgency, mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow. There is no time for games. The time is now, and the cause is urgent. This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people, and it's about culture. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. The military has been forced by foolish and reckless politicians to focus on the wrong things. In many ways, this speech is about fixing decades of decay, clearing the way for leaders to be leaders. You might say we're ending the war on warriors. For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. We became the woke department, but not anymore. Right now, I'm looking out at a sea of Americans who made a choice when they were young men and young women to serve something greater than yourselves, to fight for God and country, for freedom and the Constitution. We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes, to just tell it like it is in plain English. That's what leaders must do. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. President Trump expects it. Would I want my eldest son eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God. Think of it as the golden rule test. Jesus said, do unto others that which you would have done unto yourself. The new War Department golden rule, do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? The answer is not just no, it's hell no. This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense application of standards. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or under a leader who was the first, but not the best. The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. And that's why today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. Today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression, because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans, but unfortunately we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed. And that's why today at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession. On the topic of standards, allow me a few words to talk about toxic leaders. Upholding and demanding high standards is not toxic. Enforcing high standards, not toxic leadership. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God. The definition of toxic has been turned upside down, and we're correcting that. That's why today at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. And if that makes me toxic, then so be it. Any place where tried and true physical standards were altered, especially since 2015 when combat arms standards were changed to ensure females could qualify, must be returned to their original standard. Other standards have been manipulated to hit racial quotas as well, which is just as unacceptable. This too must end. This, and I want to be very clear about this is not about preventing women from serving. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it.
Fuck them! Fuck them!
I call it the no more walking on eggshells policy. We are overhauling an inspector general process that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells. That's exactly the kind of discrimination we want. And when we give you this guidance, we know mistakes will be made. But you should not pay for earnest mistakes for your entire career. And that's why today, at my direction, we're making changes to the retention of adverse information on personnel records that will allow leaders with forgivable, earnest, or minor infractions to not be encumbered by those infractions in perpetuity. Otherwise, we only try not to make mistakes, and that's not the business we're in. We need risk takers and aggressive leaders. As you have seen, and the media has obsessed over, I have fired a number of senior officers since taking over. It's nearly impossible to change a culture with the same people who helped create or even benefited from that culture. We all serve at the pleasure of the president every single day. An entire generation of generals and admirals were told that they must parrot the insane fallacy that, quote, our diversity is our strength. They had to put out dizzying DEI and LGBTQI+ statements. They were told females and males are the same thing, or that males who think they're females is totally normal. They were told to kick out Americans who refuse an emergency vaccine. My job has been to determine which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership, and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department, and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executing new lawful orders. That's it. It's that simple. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. Now, of course, we're going to disagree at times. We would not be Americans if we didn't. You will win some arguments, and you will lose some arguments. Now, it seems like a small thing, but it's not. This includes as well the behavior of our troops online. Anonymous, online, or keyboard complaining is not worthy of a warrior. Anonymous, unit-level social media pages that trash commanders, demoralize troops, and undermine unit cohesion must not be tolerated. The tougher and the higher the standards in our units, the higher the retention rates in those units. Warriors want to be challenged. Troops want to be tested. When you don't train and you don't maintain, you demoralize. There is no world in which high-intensity war exists without pain, agony, and human tragedy. We may lose good people.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Basic training is being restored to what it should be. Scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. And yes, they can put their hands on recruits. They can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits, to make them the warriors they need to be. We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. We were built to load up in the back of helicopters in the dead of night, in fair weather or foul, to go to dangerous places, to find those who would do our nation harm, and deliver justice on behalf of the American people in close and brutal combat if necessary.
With the axe, who's going to win this battle of the lumberjacks? With the axe, who's going to win this battle of the lumberjacks?
The media will mischaracterize us, and that's okay. In this profession, you feel comfortable inside the violence so that our citizens can live peacefully. Lethality is our calling card.
Daddy button.
In closing, move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
I've never walked into a room so silent before. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. So you just have a good time. But I want to thank Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, General Raisin Kane for a reason they call him that. When I heard his name, I said, you're the guy I'm looking for. We built the military during my first term. It's one of the greatest achievements. We had the greatest economy in history, and I built the military. Those are the two things I say more than anything else. Pete spoke about it. He gave a great speech, I thought. Great speech. I don't want him to get so good. I hate that. I hate it. I almost fired him. I don't want to go on after that. We were sitting there. I said, didn't it used to be called the Department of War? And he goes, yes, sir. They changed it like in the early 50s. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? And I have to be honest, it's so popular. I thought it would be met with fury on the left, but they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. There's been no fight. Like what I called the Gulf of America, the Gulf of America. I just had this idea. I'm looking at a map. I'm saying, we have most of the frontage. Why is it Gulf of Mexico? Why isn't it the Gulf of America? The shift in branding, it's really a historic reassertion of our purpose and our identity and our pride. And we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there, and sometimes you have to do it. War is very strange, you never know what's going to happen with war.
Like a box of chocolates.
And now we're back. That's it. We're not going to have any of that crap happen, I can tell you. I am with you. I support you. You'll never see me even waver a little bit. And that includes our great police officers and firemen and all of these people that are doing so well. I rebuilt our nuclear, as you probably know, but we'll upgrade that also and just hope we never have to use it. We have to hope we never have to use it because the power of that is so incredible. I see things, I don't think they'd show it to you. I really wouldn't want them to show it to you. You never want to use that. Never. Never, ever. We were a little bit threatened by Russia recently, and I sent a submarine, nuclear submarine, the most lethal weapon ever made. But I announced that, based on his mention of nuclear, and it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear, I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, and it's just lurking, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. Firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over. It's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground. And you have people shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. We're not going to let that happen. So I always mention the firemen because that's actually a big problem we have. The auto pen, I call them the auto pen. It's, how would you like to have your thing signed by an auto pen? When I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, the gorgeous paper, I said throw a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. I don't want to use this. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature. India and Pakistan were going at it. And in this case, I use trade. I'm not going to trade with you. No, you cannot do that. I said, yes, I can. You go into this freaking war that I'm hearing about. And I said, you do this, there's not going to be any trade. I stopped the worst, and we stopped it. President Trump saved millions and millions of lives. That was a bad war. Even in Africa, we saved the Congo. Will you get the Nobel Prize? Absolutely not. It'd be a big insult to our country, I will tell you that. I don't want it. I want the country to get it. Azerbaijan, they said it's not solvable, sir. Don't do it. I said, I will do it. And then I got on the phone with the two countries. They were great. I knew immediately. I knew as soon as I started talking to them, we're going to solve that war. We did. Now they're so happy. Now they're friends. He said, for 22 years, I did nothing but kill his people. They were in the room together at the Oval Office. And they started off spread like this. They have the beautiful Resolute desk. And one was here, and one was here. You couldn't get further away. That's the furthest I've ever seen two people in front of me. And as the hour went by, they got closer, closer, closer. And at the end of the hour, we had it done. And they hugged and hugged and hugged. And I said, that's so nice. And you're going to remain friends. You're saving so many lives doing this if you can do it. Merit. That's the most important word. Other than the word tariff. I love tariffs. Most beautiful word. But I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I said, tariff is my favorite word. I love the word tariff. We're becoming rich as hell. My favorite word in the English dictionary is the word tariff. They said, what about love? What about religion? What about God? What about wife, family? So we found $31 billion and we're not sure from where it came. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, we don't know where it came. I said, check the tariff shelf. Sir, you're right. It came from tariffs. And I look at different ships and the old pictures. I used to watch Victory at Sea. I love Victory at Sea. Look at these admirals. It's got to be your all-time in black and white. Some people would say, no, that's old technology. I don't know. I don't think it's old technology when you look at those guns. And I'm not a fan of some of the ships you do. I'm a very aesthetic person, and I don't like some of the ships you're doing aesthetically. They say, oh, it's stealth. I said, that's not stealth. An ugly ship is not necessary in order to say you're stealth. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. Washington, D.C. was the most unsafe, most dangerous city in the United States of America, and to a large extent, beyond. You go to Afghanistan, they didn't have anything like that. And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid. How about Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone? This looked like World War II. Your place is burning down. I mean, you must be kidding. Sir, we have it under control. I said, you don't have it under control, Governor. This place is a nightmare. They get brand new cars, Border Patrol, ICE, beautiful, nice new cars, and they're driving along and they have to go through a gauntlet of rocks being thrown at the car. These guys have pretty good arms, some of them. And I said, never let that happen again. From now on, if that ever happens, and I say it here, you get out of that car and you can do whatever the hell you want to do. Last month, I signed an executive order to provide training for a quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. And this is going to be a big thing for the people in this room because it's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. It won't get out of control. You saw it in Washington. We had gangs of Tren de Araguas, 10, 12, 15 kids, and these military guys walk up to them, and they treat them with disrespect, and they just got pounded, then thrown into paddy wagons and taken back to their country. Now they like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. America is respected again as a country. We were not respected with Biden. They looked at him falling downstairs every day. Every day the guy's falling downstairs. Said, it's not our president. We can't have it. I'm very careful. You know, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs. Bop down the stairs. Bop down the stairs. Don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. Everybody wants to be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines. Da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. If you think the Coast Guard and Space Force, and I go around bragging about that. I said, we have the strongest military anywhere in the world. I say it. You never heard Biden say that. Da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. The Department of War is going to stop wars. God bless America. God bless you all. Thank you very much. Da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop.